A dangerous man isn't the one who shouts, he's the one who doesn't need to. While others explode at the smallest insult, he stays still watching, understanding, choosing whether it's even worth a response. His silence doesn't come from weakness, it comes from total emotional sovereignty. And that's terrifying to people who are slaves to their own reactions. Most men are easily provoked. A careless word, a sideways glance, a bruise to their pride, and they're immediately triggered. They argue, defend themselves, try to win. But a Stoic man doesn't try to win arguments. He's not fighting for ego, he's fighting for inner mastery. And mastery means restraint. Epictetus once wrote, "Anyone capable of angering you becomes your master. If someone can push your buttons, they own you. They control the temperature of your mind. But when you're uncheckable, when you're insulted and don't flinch, misunderstood and don't explain, tested and don't react, people don't know what to do with you. They feel disarmed. And in that confusion, they start to respect what they can't manipulate." This type of emotional control is not about being cold, it's about being calculated. It's the kind of calm that comes from knowing yourself so well, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You don't react just because someone wants you to. You don't lash out to protect your ego. You simply hold your ground in silence, and that silence becomes louder than any outburst ever could. Because real power isn't explosive, it's quiet. It doesn't need to be performed, it's felt. A man who rules his inner fire, who walks into chaos and remains composed, that man is feared not because he's violent, but because he's untouchable. When a man has mastered his emotions, the next test is deeper indifference to the opinions of others. Because once you no longer react to what people say, they'll try something subtler, their approval or disapproval. But here's the truth: the moment you seek validation, you surrender control. We live in a world addicted to applause. Social media thrives on praise, clout, and visibility. But the Stoic man walks a different path. He doesn't ask, "Will they like this?" He asks, "Is this right?" His actions are guided by reason, not popularity. He's not trying to be liked, he's trying to be aligned. Marcus Aurelius said, "We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." That's the trap. You let strangers shape your identity. You let critics build your insecurities. You forget who you are in the noise of who they want you to be. But the dangerous man, the Stoic, stops listening. Not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. He knows where he's going. He knows why. And if no one claps, he keeps walking anyway. This unnerves people. They're used to being able to sway others with praise or silence. But when you don't react to praise and you're not crushed by criticism, they lose their leverage and what they can't control. They start to fear. Indifference doesn't mean you don't care about truth. It means you care more about your inner compass than outer noise. You're not driven by attention, you're driven by values. And when your silence is chosen, not forced by insecurity, but selected with strength, it creates a presence that no bravado can replicate. That's the kind of man people watch carefully. Not because he's loud, but because he's so deeply grounded. They wonder what fire burns behind his stillness. And if he ever chose to act, they know nothing would stop him. After a man masters his emotions and frees himself from needing approval, there remains one final chain the world uses to control him: desire. Not just for women, money, or pleasure, but for recognition, validation, and control. And unless he conquers that hunger, he's still vulnerable, still manipulable. You see, most men are not driven by reason, they're driven by craving. They chase attention to feel seen. They chase success to feel worthy. They chase beauty to feel powerful. And that's exactly how the world owns them. Dangle the right temptation. And even the calmest man will betray his principles. He'll sell out his peace for applause, or his time for lust. But the stoic man, the dangerous man, learns to want less. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor, a man who can walk away from what most would die to have. A contract, a compliment, a woman's attention is feared, because you can't control someone who doesn't need what you're offering." This isn't detachment from life, it's detachment from slavery. He still enjoys beauty, connection, achievement, but he doesn't cling. His identity isn't tied to possession. So when you take something from him, you don't take him with it. That is terrifying to those who live on leverage, because now, nothing owns him. Not money, not desire, not even fear of loss, and that kind of self-restraint is a quiet rebellion. In a world that says, take more, want more, be more, the Stoic replies, I have enough. That calm contentment, that ability to stand alone and not thirst, is power. Because when a man no longer needs, he becomes unbreakable. You can't seduce him. You can't guilt him. You can't lure him into chaos with shiny promises. And so, like still water hiding great depth, he carries a threat no one can measure, not because he wants to destroy, but because nothing. When a man no longer reacts, no longer craves, and no longer cares for applause, he reaches his most formidable form: stillness in chaos. This is the final threshold. The rarest power, to be unshaken when the world shakes. The loudest man in the room isn't the strongest. The one who rushes to defend his name, to prove a point, to meet every insult with fire, that man is still chained by emotion, chained by ego. But the man who walks through conflict like a quiet shadow, who meets noise with stillness, and threats with silence, he is different. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." The Stoic doesn't rise to every provocation. He doesn't match chaos with chaos. He understands the battlefield is not out there, it's within. And until you conquer that terrain, no victory matters. When others try to rattle you, it's not personal, it's strategic. If they can trigger you, they can control you. If they can pull emotion from you, they know where to push next. But the man who stays composed, who listens without reacting, who watches without trembling, becomes unreadable. And people fear what they can't predict. This emotional silence isn't suppression. It's sovereignty. It's the quiet strength that says, I don't owe you my energy. And in that moment, your calm becomes contagious or threatening. Some will be drawn to it. Others will try to break it, but none will ignore it. Because when you speak only when needed, when your gaze is sharp but your voice measured, when you choose your battles with precision, you stop being just a man in the room. You become the center of gravity, not loud, not dramatic, just ... inevitable. And that's what real danger looks like, not in the man who reacts, but in the one who doesn't need to. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to prove your worth to be respected. When you rule your emotions, ignore opinions, master desire, and move calmly through chaos, you become untouchable. That's what true danger looks like. Not violence, not arrogance, but quiet strength rooted in self-mastery. If this message resonated with the man you're becoming, like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the Stoic Verse. Walk with us and become the calm the world can't shake.